And we are now on air. Hello, everybody. My name is Kirby Kwan Jr. from The Six, and today we are here for hopefully the first installment of the Ghetto Fabulous podcast. Joining me today is somebody that I've known for just around about 2 years, I believe, and he's an up-and-coming cosplayer from Toronto, and he's also a really smart person because currently he is in Japan conducting some kind of research assignment, and it's not porn-related. Everybody, please welcome Shane.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing all good. I'm doing okay. So, before we get into, your suspicious research, let's talk about, some topics that we're going to be covering in this particular episode would be sort of early introduction to sort of geek culture and nerd culture and how it's sort of been shaped to becoming sort of mainstream these days with, for example, the huge box office records from Endgame and stuff like that. And also, our thoughts on the movie as well. But before we talk about that, let's talk about you, the guest. So what is your research that you are doing in the land of the weebs?
Oh man, okay, so my research is mostly focused on children's literature. I'll be looking into an early children's magazine that was published in Japan called Akaitori. What they did was that they took a lot of European or like Western fairy tales, and they didn't really give contributions or any citations to the people who actually wrote the stories or did the illustrations themselves, and they kind of remade the entire stories for the Japanese audience. So I wanted to look at the differences between the two, just to see what they did to make it seem more Japanese, what characters did they remove, what illustrations did they remake for themselves, and yeah.
Dope. So you're basically there to study manga. Okay, cool, got it.
Actually, yeah.
That's actually fucking tight. So let's continue talking about more about you. So what was your sort of I guess introduction or gateway, not drug, but gateway experience that got you into sort of like the popular, or these days it's popular, but like the geek culture, the nerd culture, anime, comic book stuff like that, superheroes.
Yeah. So for me, I actually grew up in the Caribbean.
Man.
And as being from the Caribbean, right, as well as being Chinese, right, there's really not much to go on there. There's nothing for me to relate to as easily, all right? So what I did relate to the most was anime, all right, that I saw on this really, really old program called Toonami. Jesus Christ. And even before Toonami, right, like I used to watch like anime like Samurai X, and Dragon Ball Z in Spanish, and Gundam Wing in Spanish. And to be honest, like from there, I was just like, man,
mi amo Goku. ¿Cómo estás?
You should hear them going Kamehameha, like with the Spanish accents.
More like Kamehameha hambre, but okay.
Yep, there you go. And from there, it was just like, I just gravitated more towards that stuff compared to the Caribbean, like, culture that was around me. And it didn't really sit tight with me, like the soca culture and all that stuff. So, outside of that, superheroes, I was always a fan of Spider-Man. I used to watch I don't know if anyone even remembers this, like the very first X-Men, cartoon.
The very first? Are you talking about the one from 92?
I think so, yeah.
Is it the one where the intro's like... Yeah, that's the one from 92. That was the Foxbox one.
Yeah, that was good.
That was like the OG. That was like the OG MCU back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Outside of that, all right, there was like a lot of weird animated like Spider-Man shows for me, and I'm not even talking about like the old '90s version where you see the dude like sitting behind the desk and everything. I'm talking like
that's not '90s, dude. That's straight up from the '60s. What you talking about?
Jesus Christ! All right, I'm talking about the one that was all cell shading. All right, like really neon. All right, really like. Oh my god. And that one was awesome. Really, really, really terrible animation, right? But I still loved it as a kid.
Did it look like CG? Is that what you're talking about?
Kind of, yeah. Like it just looked like wonky animations. But to be honest, like I was always into like this sort of like stuff because the very first thing that I remember falling in love with was Transformers Beast Wars.
Okay. And I'm assuming Reboot as well then, because that was around the same era.
To be honest, no, I never got into Reboot.
Okay, me neither, so it's okay. But back to that CG Spider-Man show that you were talking about. I'm very familiar with that because I actually like watched the whole show not too long ago. That one is actually called it's commonly referred to as the MTV Spider-Man because it was produced by MTV, but it's actually called Spider-Man the New Animated Series. It ran for just about, if I remember, 13 episodes, just one season. And the reason why it looked as weird as it did was because it tried to look, despite the fact that it's CG and it clearly has a lot of dimension into it, they tried to make it look like a comic book. So that's why it was halfway cel shaded and everything. So it tried to do something that was very ahead of the time at the time. And if anything, the thing that the technology that they did actually did lead to a lot of CG technology now in big budget films, like for example Frozen, where they nailed the manipulation of the lips, eyes, and eyebrows. So even if the head itself doesn't move, that's actually what gives a lot of emotions and shit.
Okay. To me, it was just like brightly colored and like everything a little kid would want. And oh boy, it had Spider-Man. That's all that mattered to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, the way that I sort of got involved in I guess like the whole entire like nerd and geek culture was I think I was about 4, and because I grew up as a very Asian kid. I was born in Canada, but about a month after I was born, maybe 2, I don't know, I was brought back to Asia because my parents were like, hey, let's take a look at our baby, y'all. We made a baby, y'all, and started flaunting me and shit all over Asia as if I was some kind of fucking foreign treasure or some shit. Like my parents were fucking pirates and some shit. So then when I came back to Toronto, I actually didn't really speak a lot of English at all, and I wasn't aware of like comic books and superheroes and stuff like that. But one day, my cousins were watching Batman the Animated Series, and I did a little research. I forgot the name of the episode, but it's an episode in season 3. I think it was called Holiday Nights, actually. Yeah, so the episode was Holiday Nights, and I remember that so vividly. Even though that was one of the more mediocre episodes, I think. But that's how I got introduced into that shit. I'm like, what is this? And then I started to watch anything Batman, even like the Super Friends and shit, or the Funimation series from like the 80s, where the intro would give you like epileptic episodes and shit. But like I started researching all of that, and then when I got into eventually Super Friends, that's when I was introduced to like the Justice League, which is great because shortly after that, the Justice League cartoons started airing and stuff like that as well.
You talking about Justice League Unlimited?
Yeah, Justice League and then Justice League Unlimited. And then for the Marvel side for me, it was also Spider-Man from the 90s. It was just, I don't know why, I was really interested into spiders as a kid. Not so much anymore. I don't know what the fuck happened to me, but somewhere down the road I became arachnophobic. I don't know how, but I did. And that's how I got interested into, the Marvel side of things. And my mom actually, I remember this, my mom actually got me a VHS, like motherfuckers know what the fuck VHSs are anymore. But she got me a VHS cassette of an episode or 2 episodes of the 60s show. One of them was the pilot, and then the other one was one about Electro. And I thought that was the most badass shit ever as a kid.
Oh man, you know what I thought was the coolest shit as well? Like, did you ever watch Static Shock?
Static Shock?
Yeah. That was the sickest shit ever. But when I look back on some of the episodes, right, and just hearing how they explain shit, I just like laughed to my fucking self, because there was like this one episode, right, where some guy, like some snake boss or whatever, right, was like, oh, you guys gotta throw knockout gas at him, right? They threw knockout gas at him, and he's just like, it doesn't affect me. And then Static's like, let me like hypercharge this knockout gas.
I mean, they had to use his power somehow, right?
In my head, I'm just like, you what? What the fuck did you do to the gas?
That doesn't make sense, bro.
Yeah, so.
But I mean, like, it is what it is. Like, they had to, they had to compensate somewhere to make things somewhat make sense, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I'm just wondering, as a kid, because this is really interesting, born in the Caribbean, right? And you grew up there as an Asian dude, as a very visually noticeable minority.
Yeah.
what was it like growing up there as a kid? And when did you move out there? Move out of there to Canada?
I mean, if I were to be honest, like, living there was tough. Chinese people are the minority in Trinidad, and people love their racist jokes going throughout the city.
Fucking chink.
Yeah, kind of. Except you wouldn't hear chink. They have their own, like, slurs in Trinidad.
I mean, shit. Like, I had a teacher from Trinidad, in middle school. Or sorry, not middle school, in high school. My chem teacher, and he literally kept on calling me Chinaman the whole entire semester. He just kept on calling me Chinaman this, Chinaman that. It's like, Chinaman on the light. All right, I'll turn on the light for you then.
Oh boy, for me it was Chinese, and that's like some Trinidadian like.
Sounds like a K-pop. It sounds like the K-pop group, bro. It sounds like Shiny.
Kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like growing up there was just tough in general. I didn't have a lot of friends. The ones that I did have, alright, like, I knew that they were really tight. Because others, like, they would try to be your friends, alright, just so that they could try and learn some Chinese, which is some of the stupidest bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I mean, if they were genuinely interested into the culture, that's actually kind of cool. But let me guess, they just wanted to learn how to say the word like "fuck" in Chinese.
Exactly. Yes, they wanted to know how to say "fuck your mother," bitch, all that stuff. They just wanted to learn how to swear. That was a majority of the people that I actually encountered when I was growing up there. Outside of that, my parents ran a restaurant, so now I really have to go deal with the people, because obviously as an Asian kid, right, and your parents got a restaurant, you gotta sit your ass down and work.
Okay.
Yep, no weekends for you. You're here to work at the restaurant, and you're not even gonna get paid that much. Oh boy.
Well, I mean, I would assume that, like, when they said you're gonna get paid with the gift of life, you get to fucking live, boy.
Kind of. That was actually like the first few.
Because
like...
I'm pretty sure most Asian parents, or most Asians, you probably heard this at one point. If your parents weren't born in, the immigrated country, you probably heard them say, "We made you."
Yeah.
But we can also make you disappear.
Yes, we made you, but we can unmake you. Yeah. I mean, working for like your Asian family, like, no, there's no money. No, you don't get paid or anything like that.
You get paid with permission to live.
Kind of, right? There's not very many benefits, if I was honest. Yeah, I got to see my parents every day, which is a nightmare as a kid.
Yeah, it's like, I don't really know if that's a benefit or not.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna stop there. There's really no benefits, and I had to deal with all the racist assholes that walked into our restaurant. Not only racist assholes, but like regular customer service bullshit, like just retail garbage.
And how old were you while you were like working?
I was like 12. I was like 12 going on, like, and I stayed in my parents' restaurant until I was like 16.
Well, shit. So when did you come to Canada?
I came into Canada when I was around 18 years old. That was when I finally finished. Yeah, so it's a weird process actually to get from like a Trinidadian student to being a Canadian student, which is Canadian schools, right, will either give you a scholarship, all right, if your grades are that good. Mine weren't.
Okay.
Otherwise, right, you would have to go to a international school of some sort, right? And through that international school, right, like it has to be Canadian, and from the Canadian one, then you're almost given like a quick access into the Canadian school system itself, all right? And then that's basically it. Outside of that, like, that's basically what I had to go through, all right? Like that, make sure you don't fuck up in that whole semester that you're there in the Canadian International School. And where I went to was like the most Canadian sounding shit ever. It was literally called Maple Leaf International School.
Bro, that shit sounds like someone made that up for a joke.
Yeah. Oh man, it kind of almost felt like a joke sometimes.
Maple Leaf International. Okay.
Yeah. This is something that's not really quite said as often as it should in Trinidad, but
did y'all like manufacture maple syrup while y'all were there?
No.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like
No.
it sounds like a freaking maple syrup company.
Like
Welcome
like
to
one of
Maple
those.
Syrup Maples. Welcome to Maple Leaf International, where we make the finest, the smoothest, the runningest maple syrup,
I mean, that
made
would
by
be
a
sick.
Chinese Asian kid who immigrated from Trinidad.
I mean, that would still be in Trinidad? So is that really immigration?
Never mind.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just something that like not a lot of people say, right, in Trinidad. But there's a party culture, a really, really big party culture there, and a lot of the kids I knew fucking loved party culture.
Are you talking about like soca fets where like you start throwing paint everywhere and shooting everybody with water guns?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, we're from Toronto, so you know we're used to that shit too.
Yeah. No, they love Carnival. They were going fucking insane over it and everything like that. You know, which is like fair. You know, that's like the main party for the entire year in Trinidad next to Christmas.
Right.
But the thing is, like, these kids were crazy, man. These kids would like go out drinking on like Tuesday nights and stuff. There were times when I was like just hanging out, right, in my class or whatever, right, and they'd be like, "Yo, Shane, you want to go get a beer?" I was just like,
And how old were you at this time? Y'all were like 16, you said?
17, 18.
Okay, I mean, that's still not fine, but you know, you know
No,
what I mean.
it's not. Yeah, I know what you mean. And what was oh my god, they literally they made up their own holiday for themselves in the school. They made up a holiday for themselves called Ditch Day, where yeah,
The
as the
fuck
name
outta here.
goes, exactly as the name goes, right? They literally just leave.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh man, and
It-
that was
well,
Maple Leaf.
Was that like an optional last day of school, or did they just decide to say like, "All right, we're gonna
No.
leave the school"?
It's not even like at the last day of school. It's in
Just
the
a
middle of
random-
the semester.
What the fuck? Okay, sure.
Yeah, they take one whole day in the middle of the semester to basically leave, go to the clubs, hit the like bars, hit the beaches, all that stuff. And the school has nothing they could do about it. It seems, right? Because all the teachers had to like pull back their classes on that day.
So like they were aware of it basically, and they just decided like fuck it.
Everyone was aware of it, but they were
So just like so they were
whatever.
just like all the kids in the classroom. Me not care, just like that.
Kind of, yeah. Because then they were like, whoever's here, all right, you guys get like extra marks or something like that. Whoever isn't, right, like whatever.
Well, shit. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
well, did you ever like take
Fuck
your ditch
no,
day?
No, I don't do shit like that. Like,
Well, I mean, like if the teacher doesn't like prepare anything for class anyway, right? I'm guessing why don't you just like spend that time
Leave.
with your parents? Yeah, leave, fuck off, and just maybe not drink if you're not into that, but at least do something productive, right? Like.
fair. I mean, for me, all I really did was just hang out with like friends, talk to them, chatted like during the whole ditch day thing. It was just a time for shit talk.
Your mama's so fat, like shit like that.
More like actually, we were talking about stuff like this.
Oh, dub. Okay, so y'all were having podcasts. Yeah, you see what I mean? Like
Yeah,
y'all
I
could have been
guess
having
so.
podcasts when during ditch days. Like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ditch Day podcast. For today's topic, we're going to talk about kids who actually stayed in school.
Kind of, yeah.
See, if you stay in school, you're not going to be a bum on the streets begging for money.
Yeah.
Out of the Burger King on Young Street, because God knows there's like 5 of them there all the time.
Funny enough, like Burger King was like the only Western what is it? Fast food brand next
franchise?
next to KFC that actually prospered in Trinidad.
So there's no McDonald's there.
There is only now a McDonald's. Before they tried, right, but it failed miserably.
How about
No.
Jollibee?
Jolly no.
I mean, we only recently got Jollibee, like not too long ago in Toronto, so. And I still haven't
Exactly.
tried it, to be honest.
There we go.
Wanna go
Outside
someday,
of that sure.
After you come back from the land of the weebs, of course.
I just love how you're asking me out for lunch, like over this podcast.
Yo, fuck it, bruh. Like, fuck it. I'm always
yeah,
hungry.
Yeah, alright.
I want to eat some shit now.
I have a box of Maple Leaf cookies right in front of me, so.
Was it from Maple Leaf International?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Oh, man. Alright, so. That's pretty much it, like, in terms of how I got from Trinidad to Canada.
How was
Finished
the
up the
weather?
international school and then got accepted into Ryerson. I applied to a bunch of schools, U of T, Ryerson, York.
Why?
You know what's, you know what's the funniest thing about York?
They're the first one to accept you, huh?
No, no, no. They were the only ones who actually sent an ambassador to Trinidad to tell us about how great York is. Ryerson didn't do it. U of T didn't do it. No one.
I think the proper terms that you were looking for was they actually sent someone
Hello?
there to beg for you to come. Yeah, what's up?
They were the only ones, and I was psyched, man. I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna get into, like, graphic design or something like that.
I know how to
right?
hold a fork.
Kind of. Oh, man. And the thing is, like, I looked at where York was exactly, alright? And my sister told me, no, don't go to York.
Why? It's not that close to the hood.
No, it's not that. It's like, A, it's too far, alright? B, it doesn't really have the programs that you're looking for. And instead, alright, like she said, like, go to Ryerson instead. It's downtown. You'll basically be able to experience more of Toronto that way.
That is true.
And it has, like, a better set of programs that you'd definitely be interested in. And here I am now.
And if you want to go shopping, there's Eaton Center right there.
Literally right there. So
Yeah. Okay. So that's dope. Let's talk about sort of let's bring it back to sort of like the comic books, the superhero and stuff. You mentioned that back in Trinidad, aka your youth, you didn't really have that many sort of I guess references or I guess sources of this sort of content out there, right? Not it's not that popular in Trinidad, I'm guessing.
it is now. Before, I can't really quite say, because in all honesty, like, there was no comic book stores. There was no one selling anime or anything like that. I mean, there's the, like, the shady, like, Chinese dude on the street selling his DVDs.
Oh shit! I forgot about those guys, man. I miss those guys,
Yeah.
man. They used to have all the movies like as soon as they come out, man.
Exactly, yeah.
I was like, how did you get Batman Begins? The trailers were still like showing on TV.
The funny thing is, like, there was still a lot of, like, DVD stores in Trinidad, right, when I was growing up, and they sold anime, which was weird, because
Was it like Cantonese dubbed or some shit?
sometimes, yes.
Bruh, I fucking hate the Canto dubs. No matter what it is, whether it's a film. Okay, no, films they usually do a better job. But if it's gonna be like a television drama, like if you ever wanted to watch a Korean drama in Cantonese dub for some reason, don't, because it's always the same four fuck faces with the same four fucking voices. And same thing with cartoons; they all sound so fucking fake and overacted and shit.
Yeah, I can't help but agree.
Especially when they cry, they with the same noise. Aries.
Yeah. Growing
So
up as
sorry.
a kid, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no worries. Like, there wasn't any comics. There wasn't any, like, stores that specifically sold that stuff or really dealt with it, right? Like, Trinidad was still very much just the Caribbean culture.
Right.
Only when I was, like, maybe 12 or 13 or so did I start to see more of those comics, and even then, like, they were, like, torn the fuck up. Some kids had no clue what the hell this shit was, I guess, and they would, like, tear pages out of, like, big, like, omnibus collections of comics, right? I don't fucking know, like, use as toilet paper, hang up in their room, like, I don't know.
And this was like new stuff that they were getting, or like old stuff that was shipped over that no one wanted anymore.
Probably old stuff. Like, it was stories like, what was it? Actually, no. It was actually, I would say, like, it was actually pretty okay. Like modernist, like modern sort of stuff.
So I'm assuming back then. So there was like probably a lot of like Ultimate Comics, I'm guessing.
There was a lot of Ultimate Comics. There was Avengers comics as well. A lot of Spider-Man, which I really enjoyed. But
Right.
like I said, right, like, almost every one of the books was damaged in, like, some crazy way. Like, some jackass tore off the title page. Someone tore out, like, the centerpiece, right? Or, like, they
Like the
pulled out,
spreads?
like, the... Exactly, yeah. And you could tell, like, it wasn't with scissors or anything like that. Like, this motherfucker tore the page.
Oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So
disrespectful.
it is, and the thing is, like, they would either do that or they would draw onto the comics, which to me is like,
That's the
okay,
dumbest thing you could do.
tear out the page is like one thing, but drawing on the fucking comics is like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Go.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty much what I got to experience in terms of like comic books and stuff.
Yeah. Did you used to get like bullied for liking that shit back in the day?
Kind of, but to be honest,
Same,
I got bullied
yeah.
for a lot of things.
Well, of course, you were like minorities amongst minorities. Like, you were just lucky you weren't fat on top of that, too. Because then you would have got my treatment.
Yeah, okay. I mean, like, I was skinny as shit as a kid, so...
Did you speak English?
I did speak English.
That's another thing, because if you didn't speak English and you were fat, you really would have gotten my treatment. Shit.
Oh, boy. No.
Thank God I could dance back in the day.
I mean, like, some comments that I actually got from, like, jackasses in Trinidad was like, damn, boy, you just speak faster than me. It's like, what it means, or is basically, like, I can speak English much better than they can.
Yeah, yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, I guess most people aren't either from Trinidad or have, like, a lot of Caribbean neighbors, so they probably wouldn't have understood that.
No. So...
Yeah, so, because for me, right, like, it's something that I find, like, very interesting is when I was a kid, I used to be bullied for all these things, and then now everyone is, like, loving this shit because it's trending now, it's the hype shit now, and I'm like, motherfucker, no, like, what? You were in there on the first day of Spider-Man? Like, the original one? Yeah, because that was actually the first movie I ever seen, like, in a theater. I went to the Colossus at Highway 7 in Vaughan, and I believe I was... Well, I mean, whenever it came out, right?
Yeah.
And then my uncle took me there with my 3 other cousins, which are all older than me. And I was like, I was so amazed. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Nice, nice.
And like, you know, back in the day, it was like, oh, we just watched like the new Harry Potter. What did you watch? It's like, oh yeah, I just watched like the Spider-Man film. What? Spider-Man? No, that's not real literature. That's a comic book film. No one cares about comic book films. I don't know why all snobs are defaults to have that accent, but you get the point. And then now these motherfuckers are selling out Endgame, and it took me fucking 3 weeks just to finally watch it. Mind you, I'm actually someone who's in film and who actually genuinely likes comic book properties. And they're like, oh, Kirby, have you seen it yet? I'm like, no. It's like, what the fuck? I thought you loved this shit. Like, I can't fucking see it because all you hype beasts and shit are ordering all the tickets before I could because I'm fucking poor.
Yeah. So, funny thing about that as well was, like, my very first movie was, like, the first Spider-Man movie.
Toby Maguire? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi, Willem Dafoe. I only recently found out that his name is not William Dafoe. It's just Willem. But Willem Dafoe and Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, that first one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was, like, the first movie I've ever watched as a kid, too. And, like, I was fucking blown, man. Like, it was just like, this is amazing.
That wasn't the first movie I watched. That was the first one I watched in theaters. But the first movie I actually watched was actually Batman and Robin.
Oh my god.
The one with the Bat credit card and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh god. Batman Forever? Oh.
No. Batman Forever is still decent. Batman and Robin. That one. Where it's like, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. That one.
Batman with like a nipple chest plate.
Yeah, that one. And as a kid, because I didn't notice these things, I'm like, this shit looks fucking badass. And even as an adult, to some degree, that bat suit actually is an engineering marvel, considering what it's capable of doing while still looking so pristine. Now, granted, the design itself is a little bit, controversial with having the nipples, but I never understood this. Like, in the first, in 1989 with Michael Keaton, he had the fake abs and everything. I'm like, at that point, you might as well put the nipples on.
Yeah, I remember watching that whole interview with... No, it was with Joel Schumacher, wasn't it?
What, when he says, like, oh, to anyone who remotely enjoyed Batman Forever... I don't know why he sounds like Michael Jackson, but, to anyone who remotely enjoys Batman Forever, if I offended you in a way or whatever, I'm really sorry and shit like that.
Yeah. That's Joel Schumacher, isn't it?
Yeah, Joel, motherfucker. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, okay. Because the thing is, like, I remember watching that interview, and he's just like, oh, like, you know, I got this perfect pecs and the perfect abdominals, so, like, why not add the nipple? I'm just like, no.
The term he used was anatomically correct.
Get the fuck out of here, man. It's meant to be body armor, not like a fucking, like, oh, God.
No, but I don't blame him, though, to some degree, because it's like, if you're gonna have the fake abs and shit, like, might as well, in my opinion. I find it weirder, to be honest. I find it weirder that fans hated that suit because of the nipples.
What?
Because I'm like, bruh, it's just nipples. Like, you already, it's big. Because if you look at the other suits, right? Or, excuse me, if you look at the 1989 suit, which everyone loves, it's basically a black man's chest, just with the nipples cut off and blended in. And then if you look at the newer one, the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin suits, it's basically again a black man, literally black, not African American, a black man's chest with the nipples cut off, or with the nipples on this time. And I'm like, how does that bother you more than the fact that you're looking at basically a naked black man?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, at that, like, why are people so
okay.
upset about that? Because if you look at the sculpt of those suits, the cleanliness of the finish and everything, like, that is objectively a better suit both in function and design. It's just or technical design, you know, like it's a better piece of movie like design, especially for me as a prop maker, and as you know, we're both cosplayers to some degree. It's objectively a better suit, but people fucking hate it because of these tiny nipples, these small little rubber circles on the chest.
Okay, so in my opinion, right, like when it comes to that sort of stuff, right, is what do you think looks more naked on you, right? If I gave you a shirt, all right, that covers your nipples, all right, or if I gave you a shirt, all right, that literally had printouts of your nipples on it.
Well, I'm also a comedian, so I think I would take the second option.
Because the thing is, I don't see any reason that, like, adding the nipples really serve, alright? Like, if anything, like, it adds to the campiness. That's kind of like the whole spirit of that movie anyways, right? Just being, like, extremely campy to, like, the nth degree. And, like, if that was the goal, alright, then that's totally fine, right, with the nipples. But to me, alright, it's like, what looks more, let's say, outlandish, right? What looks more, like, ridiculous when it comes to clothing, right?
Okay, fine, you win.
Because in my opinion, right, like, think about it like this, right? Would you look more naked, right, if you were literally naked, or if I only gave you gloves and a belt?
First things first, I don't think anyone wants to see me naked.
But the thing is, like, the concept of, like, nakedness, alright, is amplified more with a contrast. And the contrast here is that he has fucking nipples on body armor.
Speaking of nipples on body armor, why didn't Batgirl have them?
Now, yeah, see? What's funny is in the comics, alright, like, that's pretty much there. You know, with the way the artist draws. But here, he actually built a solid piece of armor for his nipples. It serves no purpose. It doesn't really add anything in terms of, like, let's think, like, practicality, right? It might distract the bad guys for, like, a little bit. But outside of that, right, there is no reason for you to put nipples on that. Like, hell, dude.
Well, I mean, if you really want to think about it, if you want to take it that far, if you think about it, and pretty much all film renditions of Batman in live action from 1989 forward, Batman is basically wearing a condom on his head.
Not only that, but he also has his underwear on the outside.
Not anymore.
Well, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Early designs were, like, ridiculous, alright? They were meant to be ridiculous, and the thing is, the reason why I feel, alright, I have no actual, like, basis behind any of this, right? The reason why is because they know, like, cape shit is dumb.
You are wrong. I actually do know the reason why.
Okay.
So the reason why is actually because at that time it was the 30s and 40s, right? And circus strongmen were still deemed, like, extraordinary motherfuckers, right? Those are basically real life super. Motherfucker. Those are
It sounds like someone just punched you in the throat.
I don't know where that came from, but you know, those guys, that's how Kawhi Leonard coughs. But basically, those were those were seen as real life superheroes because of what they're capable of feats, and their circus attire for strongmen is usually very similar to like a wrestler in the sense that they had tights, but they had like the cutout of they had like a contrast in like I guess their briefs or trunks or whatever you want to call them. So when Joel Schuster and the other guy, fuck, I feel bad now because I forgot their names. Joel Schuster.
Schumacher.
No, Schuster. I'm using the right names. I'm talking about the creator of Superman.
Okay.
And Jerry Siegel. So when Joel Schuster and Jerry Siegel created Superman, they modeled the suit off of a circus strongman.
Oh, I see.
And by extension, a little bit of like lucha libre luchadors, like the wrestlers, and sometimes they would come into the ring with a cape. So that's actually the original origin of the superhero costume.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
so that's why they had their undies on the outside for the longest time.
Right, and only now recently are we getting like superhero costumes without that shit.
Well, I mean, they just brought it back for Superman.
True.
No, they didn't. In Man of Steel, well, actually, we're talking about the actual comic books.
Oh man.
Yeah, I hate it when people do that, where like they claim that they're like a superhero fan, right? Like, they claim to be a comic book fan because they see other movies. I'm the real
fan. You're a fake fan.
No, not that. Well, I'm about to do that low key, but to me, there are two types of fans in that category. There are the comic book fans, and then there are the superhero movie fans.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing that triggers me is when the superhero movie fan pretends to know the comic books by using this resource called Wikipedia. And that's fine, if you say that, after I saw Iron Man, I was really interested in the character and I did some research and turns out he's very, very interesting. That's cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the ones that trigger me are saying, yeah, man, I was with Iron Man since day one, and that's when I cut them off and I say, no, you weren't, because no one was with Iron Man since day one, both in continuity of the comic books and in continuity with our lives. Realistically, I'm just saying, in 2008, no one gave a single fuck about Iron Man until the movie came out. Those are facts.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, I was rocking with him since day one. That's my boy.
Shut up.
Exactly. I'm like, no, you weren't, because no one liked him.
No one, really. I mean, the thing is, like, I feel as though we live in a really weird period where, like, it's essentially, like, the renaissance of superheroes, and it all started off with, like, Iron Man 1. Because after Iron Man 1, right, like, you started to see, like, a tick in quality, like, behind, like, the Marvel movies, especially, like, Avengers. But the thing is, like, I don't know if anyone realizes this or really sees this, right, but DC, right, like, they're real, like, they're, like, the DCU or whatever, right?
DCEU, like their live-action property?
Yeah, their live-action properties, my bad. Are awful. Just some of the most controversial, like, movies, right? They've only, like, landed, like, maybe 2 out of, like, however so long.
I give it 3.5.
Okay, sure.
And the reason why I say a half is because Man of Steel, some people love it, some people hate it, and same thing with BVS. Some people love it, some people hate it, but Shazam, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman are
yes, Shazam,
held
my bad.
in high regard.
Yeah, my bad, I forgot. Okay, yeah, so like 3, right? Like they've landed 3 out of however so many, right? And the thing
realistically,
is, like,
they only had 2 absolute busts, 2 that are mediocre, and then 3 that are good. So they do.
Was one of them Suicide Squad?
Yeah. that voice just completely died. Suicide Squad.
I would love to talk about Suicide Squad more, by the way, because I find that movie just fascinating.
That's to episode 2 for next week.
Sure.
Yeah, but yes, because I don't between the two, like Suicide Squad and Justice League, I refuse to call it Justice League, so I call it Just His Leg.
Okay.
Between Just His Leg and Suicide Squad, I don't know which one I hate more.
I I definitely hate Justice League more. Because
Oh,
the
by the
reason,
way, I really hope that catches on.
yeah, I hope that catches on too. Because the thing is, right, like Justice League got edited, beaten the shit out of, rescripted, redone, retold, and it has a fucking CGI mustache, like, sorry, not
Removal.
mustache,
Yeah.
that makes, like, what's his name again? Henry Cavill?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes him look like a monster.
Yo, I'll be honest though. Like, I asked William, William, like another William that you don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
and he actually didn't really notice it. I feel like the
Here's
only
a-
reason why we do is because we knew about it.
Exactly, yeah, like that was the only reason I really, really noticed it, if you ask me, right? Outside of that, right, they skip through so many details in Justice League, right? They don't really. God, one of my biggest issues with it is that they completely butcher a lot of the superheroes, right?
Like Batman.
Cyborg. Yeah, Batman.
I was so
as-
triggered when he goes like, when he goes like, Clark, come help with us, right? And then he gets like thrown to the ground and he goes like, oh, something is definitely bleeding.
Oh, my
Alfred.
God.
I don't know if he said Alfred, but like at that moment, I'm just like, why are you giving the one-liners to him? And then
Yeah.
Flash looked like Filthy Frank.
Not just that, but Flash was terrible in this movie. Just absolutely terrible. Because here's the one thing, right, that Flash knows how to do, right? In the comics, right, it doesn't fucking matter, right? If you want to retell this story, right, you have to nail this. Flash knows how to rescue people. That's his thing, right? He has super speed. His whole storyline is that he wants to rescue his mom, right?
Yes.
He wants to rescue people. Why am I getting a scene, right, where Bruce is explaining
Nora,
to
why did you say
step by
that name?
step-
I'm playing. Okay, yeah.
yeah. No, why am I getting a scene where Batman, Bruce, right, is explaining to the Flash, just go into the room, grab the people, and get out? I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like,
Okay, I was about to say, I was gonna let that scene slide if what Flash was asking was like, how do we defeat the motherfuckers so then I could do this? But clearly the line after that negates that, like, the defense because he says, and then what?
oh,
Because if he said, because when he said, oh, okay, I knew about that, but how do we take down the monsters? That would have kind of like not fully redeemed, but partially redeemed that line. But he says, and then what? And then Batman was just like, you'll fucking figure it out. I wish he just says, another one,
oh
another
my
one,
God.
another
The thing
one.
is, like, the only Justice League movie, right, that really exists in my mind, alright, is Justice League. I think it's like, is it called War? Is the animated one where like you actually meet all the Justice League members and they have to fight Darkseid?
Yeah, Justice League War.
Yeah.
No, Justice League War. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Justice League War because it's the good one, not the bootleg Chinese.
There's still a few more animated Justice League movies out there
Yeah,
that are
no,
pretty
no,
good.
absolutely.
I
right?
actually
Like,
don't think Justice League War was that great. Have you seen Justice League Doom?
no, not yet. I do
you're
want to
missing
see it though
out.
because it actually looks really good. Justice League War, alright, I would also agree is not the best, right? There's so many flaws, right? Like
What
the-
was up
the
with
pace-
Batman's voice?
The pacing is also weird. But
Oh, the
it's,
Green Lantern, because they thought that Ryan Reynolds was gonna take off as Green Lantern.
ooh, that's awkward. Ooh.
I forgot about the Green Lantern movie.
Oh.
We're not gonna talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
I don't want to talk about that either because it
Thank
depresses
God.
me. Anyways, but yeah, like that one was good, and in my opinion, right, if they like just copied that, alright, and like changed one or two, three details, right, not even bring in Shazam or anything like that, I think it would have been fine. I think it would have actually been like pretty serviceable, right? But no, they have to go back off of BVS, right, which was already a controversial piece.
Yeah.
And what was worse was that they had to make Bruce's character completely backtrack his whole philosophy from BVS.
Yeah. That was. Yeah.
Which to me is just like, okay, no, make up your mind. You have to choose one. You can't do both. And you can't just think like, oh, people love Super C and Superman, or we have to bring him back, alright? And Bruce should love him now. No. It makes no sense. But that's Justice League, and to me it's like, there's just so many technical difficulties, right, that I've never seen happen in a movie ever before, right?
Well,
Where
clearly you haven't seen a lot of movies from the 70s that came out of China, because they had some. Oh god. Oh
I
god.
think I'm blessed in that sense that I never saw that shit from China, but
Bro, when Bruce Lee finally passed, do you know how many fucking like bootleg Bruce Lee movies they made? Jesus.
yeah, I can imagine.
Some of them
I
were
mean,
so ghetto that they straight up just took like they just recut scenes and shots from his actual movies and just dubbed it differently and
oh
then
my
created it their own
God.
story. That's how shit and moralist some of these films were.
Fair. Fair. But for this one, right, like, it's a big budget film. They have a fuck ton of money from WB and DC, right? Like, they're making cash, right?
Well,
And the fucking technical difficulties are almost inexcusable, in my opinion. But yeah, what?
they actually fucked up early. The first time that they fucked up was in BVS. And let me explain what I mean by this. Like, regardless of whatever the filmmaker decisions were, that's its own thing. I'm talking about behind the scenes.
Okay.
If you notice in the credits, they never credit who actually made the Batman suit. Because let's be honest, that Batman suit was fucking badass.
Yeah.
That suit
Yeah.
was made by Ironhead Studios and designed by a gentleman named Jose Fernandez.
Okay.
The only reason why I know this is because he had to go out of his way to state that. Because they were not credited. Ironhead
Why
Studios
the
and Jose
fuck?
Fernandez were not credited in the film. And that's
Why?
actually the reason why in just his leg he gets a new suit. Like at the very beginning, it's a different suit. That's the reason why.
Because Ironhead didn't want to supply, like, the same suit?
Yeah, because like they weren't credited, so they're like, what the fuck? You need to fix this.
And then they didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know what else Ironhead Studios did? They did some of the Marvel stuff too. Like I think they created the Black Panther helmet, Thor, shit like that. Yeah. Like the original one, not the new one. The original one from Civil War, which was tight.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, but they were never credited, and that's why Jose Fernandez was like triggered and shit. They were like, "No, fuck you guys. If you're not gonna credit us, we're not gonna fucking do this for you."
Makes sense to me.
Fuck you guys, and that's a
Yeah.
shame. That's why Ben Affleck was given a different suit, and I feel like objectively it was worse because it looked a little bit busier, but more importantly, it could not allow him to move as much. If you notice, he couldn't turn his head again. Well, he could, but
Yeah.
not so much.
Yeah.
In BVS, there's that one shot, or a few shots, but the one that I remember the most is when it's in the nightmare sequence or dream sequence where he has his hands tied up on his head, and it's in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling nothing. And then he actually turns from his left side to his right side.
Yeah.
He can't do that. He can't do that in Justice League because the cowl doesn't let him do that.
I mean, yeah, no, I could see that.
So even
but
from the
thing
very
is-
beginning, they had shit like that they fucked up on.
And the problem as well, right, is that the CGI is god awful. The villain makes no sense. Like,
Steppenwolf?
do you know who Steppenwolf actually is in the comics?
Yes.
Yeah, he's like a far removed, he's like the same level of like a far removed second cousin to Darkseid. No one gives a fuck about this guy. Like,
It should have been Calabac.
it should have been, yeah, like Calabac, alright? Or even just say, fuck it, throw Darkseid in.
No, I don't want him to be ruined that early. So Calabac. That's why I say Calabac.
Okay, fair. And
Or
the thing is,
Vandal
like,
Savage, or just like
anyone else.
I'm getting
Literally
triggered
anyone
already.
else.
Brainiac is
Nobody-
another good choice,
Brainiac would have been sick. I think that like a
that
Brainiac
would've-
movie would be cool.
and that would have given a reason to actually like bring back Superman.
Exactly, right? Oh my god. Because like, oh, I don't know, you go into like his old like Krypton archives or whatever, right? And then you find out like, oh, his people dealt with Brainiac, right? Like there should be something
Exactly.
there. And
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, let's revive him, for that. And it's like,
Yeah, and then that could set up a Superman sequel where he refines the missing city of Kandor.
there you go.
You see
Like,
what I mean?
it's-
Because that's also why Superman had to Henry Cavill dropped out of like the DC films, because like he didn't get to do much. He did Superman 1 or Man of Steel.
Yeah, where
did
he
BVS.
annihilated an entire city.
Okay, I'll be honest. Like, if you remove the fact that he did that, movie's pretty like solid. Because I feel like the biggest problem
I'm
about Superman or Man of Steel was that I felt like I was watching two different movies towards the end, at least. Because the
So
first
did
half was
I.
like really slow, subtle world building, and whether or not you like the linear or non-linear storytelling, that's up to you. That's actually very subjective. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
tonally, it was really nice. All of a sudden, it's like testosterone overload. Ah!
Like, yeah.
Yeah. But you know,
I'm sorry, but like it's just too much for me, right? To be like, if you just remove the big like city destruction scene, I'm just like, no, dude, like you physically can't remove that from this movie.
because the next snapping thing was also a big controversy, but controversy. But I was okay with that because he's really new to this shit. He doesn't know what to do.
Do you feel like the one issue as well with like the DC movies is that they're getting their characters very, very wrong?
They're starting to get them right again, but yeah.
Yeah, like they're slowly getting them right again, right? Because the thing is, like,
Well,
Batman's number one rule, right? What is Batman's number one rule?
no alcohol. No, I'm joking. Do not kill.
Do not kill, right? Why would you show me a scene, right,
Yo,
of
I
him
can't.
annihilating like a bunch of like desert troopers or whatever, right, and breaking their fucking necks?
Okay, no, I can let that slide because it's a dream sequence. I thought you were
Oh
gonna
my
talk
God.
about when he fucking like, I don't know if you remember this, but the
like, let Rage
Batmobile
die.
the Batmobile went up and then he purposely dragged the wheel into the dude's face, shot up like through other cars. That was, maybe he could say I didn't do that. It was the Batmobile.
No,
I
shut
don't
the
kill.
fuck up. You
The car
annihilated
does.
a whole block.
Yeah, that shit was wild. But I'm not gonna lie. The reason why I can let that slide is because that was fucking badass.
Oh my God.
For the movie, not for the character. For the movie, I can let that slide. For Batman, that's like,
guess.
bruh.
Like, they're just getting the characters so wrong, right?
Well,
They
would you say
have-
that, like, aside from the killing, though, they did Batman justice in the first BVS?
I guess
For the most part. The
For
one
the-
thing, though, is I
for the
wish that
most
he
part.
discovered who Superman was earlier.
Same. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Here's my thing, though.
Oh my god, Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about him actually, yeah, which is like you could not have chosen a worse Lex Luthor. Because Lex Luthor is not a twitchy idiot.
You know what? He would have been a good Joker, though.
He would have been like a pretty good Joker, right? One that was meant to die, but still. Because the thing is, like, he's not twitchy, he's not erratic, he doesn't just like spark all over the place or like go crazy or anything like that, right? Like, he is cold, he is calculating, and he is smart.
And egotistical, don't forget about that.
And immensely egotistical, prideful, selfish, all the good stuff, right?
To me, I always think Lex Luthor is someone who has the drive of Magneto and the intelligence of
Charles Xavier.
Well, actually, I was gonna say that, but then I realized it would actually make more sense if I said Reed Richards,
Yeah, I was going to say Reed Richards too.
with no
Yeah,
powers,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
right?
unless
Like,
if you count that one time. Well, yeah.
I mean, nah, whatever.
So
To
I
me,
feel
it
like
was
they
just-
should have casted someone like actually James McAvoy. That would have been great casting.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. Because the thing is, like, what we got was not only not bald, not interesting, right? But
was bald at the end.
Uh,
I don't know what that
gives
voice
a
was.
Fuck! Like,
Yeah, at that point it was way too late to redeem the character.
like, there's so much time in the entire movie, right? That is just, like, slow pedaling bullshit, that I feel like you could have just done away with all of it, right? Because the one thing that BVS tried their best to do, right? Like, this is the message that I feel BVS was trying to go with, right? Which is, it is meant to be a dramatization of man versus God. The question being is, right, is Superman God? The camera, like, how the camera keeps pointing at him and, like, all the camera angles seems to say, yes, he is Jesus Christ, right?
I mean, have you seen Man of Steel?
Well,
Jesus, literally.
yeah. And they're, like, beating you over the head, alright? Of, like, look at him! He's so angelic! He's a fucking Jesus Christ! He's saving everyone! Look at him, right? And
Look at this dude.
exactly. He does
Look at
all this cool, sick shit, right? And then people are still like, Batman is clearly dangerous and like evil, like we have to be careful of him, right? Which is what Bruce's thing is, right? He is supposed to be a representation of man, right? And man's like power against God, right?
Yeah.
But I can't really agree with a lot of the statements because it doesn't shape up when you get to the ending and you throw in Doomsday. Like, it...
No, I was about to say, that movie has a lot of good things, but
Yeah.
it's wrapped in a bad movie. That's the problem.
Yes.
Because if you cut out individual elements of the film, not just story elements, just individual elements, like Wonder Woman was great, Batman was great, the Superman suit got an upgrade. You know, those are good things. You know, you got to see a glimpse of Aquaman. Okay, I'll be honest. Speaking of that, was it just me or did it look like he was really uncomfortable underwater? Because I just remember that he looked a little bit. He looked like he was like, "The fuck am I doing down here, bruh? I just got up to set a Game of Thrones. What you got me doing down here?" Shit.
A little bit. It didn't really bother me that much, but yeah.
The Batmobile was badass. It wasn't the Tumblr. I was so sick of the Tumblr. You know,
Yeah,
shit like that. There are
was-
good things about that movie, but it's wrapped in, at best, a mediocre film. That's the problem.
Yes,
The fucking
because-
the warehouse scene, where he rescues Martha. You know, that was fucking tight.
Yeah.
But like I said, in a mediocre movie, that's the problem.
Yeah. To me, it's like they got the entire story wrong. They're trying to insert their own agenda into this thing, right? Which,
In a
I
fucking
wouldn't-
USB drive,
yeah.
not even a hard drive, just a USB.
It's so
Not a
dumb.
solid state, just a USB. That's all it
And,
takes
like,
to store these files.
There's so many minor little elements, like what you were mentioning, right, that are just so dumb and unnecessary, right? Like when they brought in Lex Luthor and his jar of, like, what was it called again? Like lemonade or whatever?
Granny's peach tea.
Yeah, Granny's peach tea, which is just as piss. I'm just like, okay, no, that Lex Luthor would never do sick, twisted shit like that. That's a Joker move, maybe.
Yeah, that's the.
You see,
But
like there are
why did-
smacks of Joker in all this.
Why didn't they just get the Joker to do this shit?
Exactly. Fuck. Oh my god. It's
And then someone's probably
bad.
gonna say, "Oh, but the DCEU already has a Joker." But I'm like,
There's two. There's now gonna be three Jokers.
well, we don't know about that one yet.
Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah, we don't know about that one yet, but
I guess fair.
yeah, the
I mean,
Joker
like,
in Suicide
looks pretty
Squad
promising
too.
to me.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh,
Why doesn't he have fucking eyebrows, man? I'm so triggered by that. He
I
should have had
wanna-
eyebrows.
I want to get into Suicide Squad so bad.
Okay, well, I'll give you a choice. Would you like to save that for next episode, or would you like to talk about Endgame, or would you like to do that now and then save Endgame for the next episode?
Let's do Suicide Squad now and then Endgame for the next episode.
Man, you really want to talk shit about this, all right?
You have no idea. Like, this movie is so busted.
Okay.
And
Let me
shit.
let me tell you this though. Fun factor wise, I think I might actually enjoy Suicide Squad a little bit more
Oh,
than I
get the
did
fuck
Justice League. No, I'm being honest, because let's be honest, the best part of the whole film was Viola Davis. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, perfect casting.
Absolutely perfect casting.
You see what I mean? Like there is like one saving grace from that film.
But Will Smith as Deadshot?
Not bad casting, but bad writing. No, actually, no.
Yes.
The biggest visual problem I see is he doesn't have a mask on half the time.
Oh god, and not only that, but his mask design actually looks terrible.
That's subjective. I say it's okay.
I think it's too large. I think
Have
it's
you
way
noticed-
too large on his face.
Have you noticed though the eyepiece is on the wrong side?
It is on the wrong side, and not only that, but I can see his other eye, like, as if it was, like, flesh, like, you know, like, just, like, night and day, which is wrong to me.
I say that's okay just because of translating that to real life, unless you really wanted them to put in like a polarized lens.
I just wanted something a little more striking, because the way his helmet looked to me, right, it looked like someone, like, wrapped a softball around his head.
True. I agree with that. I think what they should have given him was just a more streamlined balaclava and just a pair of goggles with one of them having like a specific eyepiece.
Exactly. Like, that would have been totally fine. Okay, so I'm gonna start from the top with this one.
Oh boy, here we
go. I have a whole thesis going for this movie.
This fool came prepared. I just listen, like I just asked him, "Hey Shane, would you like to hop on like the first attempt at a podcast?" It was like, "Bruh, I have a fucking stack of papers ready for this shit." This fool
so ready.
Graduated in English, right? This fool fucking wrote an essay for this shit.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, right? The entire movie itself, right, is based on the idea of like villains basically being forced to do, things for the government that the government doesn't want anyone else to know about, right? Cool, right. Nice, great premise, awesome, right? The story sucks dick. The way I saw this story playing out was this, right? The government, alright, being the stupid dummies they are in the DC world, alright, decided to hire the Joker, alright, to do a deal for them, right?
Are you saying this is your rewrite?
Yeah, would be my rewrite. Like, if I was to play, like, armchair, like, CEO or something like that, right? Okay. The government hires, like, the Joker, right, to do this thing, right? He finds out way too much, alright, and gains power to, like, a mystic power weapon or whatever the fuck, right? Done. Okay, nice, right? Now, alright, now that's when they throw in the Suicide Squad, right? Because the government doesn't want to admit to the world that they fucked up and hired a criminal.
Oh wait,
right?
so what you're saying is what everyone's been saying. You're saying Joker should have been the villain.
Yes.
Facts.
Which is like not even really an argument. There's nothing like who the fuck would ever disagree with that? And after that, all right, like then they get thrown in. Because the government doesn't want to admit to the world, right, that like, oh, we fucked up and hired a villain, right? And then the Suicide Squad goes about dealing with it, right? However you want to deal with that is like completely up to you at that point, because you've already set the premise, right, that they are after the Joker, and the Joker has power over Harley, and Harley is supposed to be one of the most powerful members in the Suicide Squad, right?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Like, I'm going off of like story-wise, right? Like, if we were talking about, like, real capabilities, no, she's got nothing on, like, Diablo, right?
Man, that was so wasted, by the way.
Oh, my God. Like, I got hyped for, like, 2 seconds when he was like, bring it, puta.
Come and get it, fool.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then
those locos say you want to do it, let's do it.
Exactly. And then he immediately fizzled out, and I was just like, oh, my God.
I wish he just fizzled out and that was it, but no, he died, right?
Yeah, he died in like essentially like a suicide attack, which
Suicide Squad.
You got it. It's like, oh, I see what you did there. You nailed it. Pretty much. And the one thing, right, that annoyed me the most in that entire movie, alright, was just the pacing, because holy shit. The very beginning shots, right? You see all the characters, right? Like, they give you the introductions, right? And
I forgot about that.
Yeah, everyone has their title cards and everything like that, right?
Yeah, they're all like tech spec and shit.
Yeah, exactly, right? You never see anything similar to that throughout, like, in the rest of the movie. It doesn't even matter at that point, right? After that, alright, like, there's one scene in my eyes, right, that I was just like, holy shit, that is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Which is, they fly in on a helicopter, right?
Which time? There's like fucking 18,000 helicopters.
The first time when they enter into the city, right? They fly into that, alright? That helicopter gets shot down, right? It is never, ever, ever clear who the fuck shot down the helicopter.
You have to assume shit.
You have to assume shit, right? Because the thing is, right, what we find out
is... Did you just assume who shot down the helicopter, Braves? Say wow.
There you go. Because it is only shown that what exists in the city, alright, are like these ugly, like,
Power Ranger putties.
CGI'd, yeah, like the Putty Patrol, right?
Yeah. It's morphin' time.
Exactly. And the thing...
Tyrannosaurus! I don't know why they all sound like they're fucking like
these radical dudes from
from fucking, like, they're all like surfer dudes and this shit. Mastodon, saber-toothed tiger.
Oh my god. But yeah, and it's like, you have to assume, alright, that like one of these Putty Patrol like dummies, alright, still knew how to use a gun, got onto an anti-air rifle, and then shot it at the helicopter. Which to me is like more hilarious than anything else. Because you know how like the thing that you see with the Putty Patrol is that they have like 19 different eyes.
Oh, those were eyes? I
assumed that they were like.
Did you just assume that mystical creature's body parts? No, but like legit though, like to me, I thought that was just like a squid like texture.
I don't know then.
Yeah, like I don't think it's never cleared what there's a lot of shit that isn't clear about that film, like both literally in terms of the visuals as well as just fucking context and shit and subtext.
Who was the guy that fell in love with Cindy Moon again?
Rick Flag.
Dude, like that guy is the worst part of that movie
in the world, dude. Because Rick Flag is supposed to be Captain America if he had an attitude.
Exactly. Also,
he's supposed to be Captain America. Yeah, he's supposed to be sort of like personality-wise Captain America, like morals.
Yeah.
But the dickhead of like the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket.
Exactly. Yeah.
But instead, he was just the most significant thing that he ever did in that whole film. You would assume, I was about to say, when he like deactivated the weapons, but really is when he bit into that giant drumstick.
I was about to say, like this dude loves chicken.
Bro, I wanted to get some KFC right then and there, and I don't even like KFC like that.
Me too. Like that scene actually made me hungry more than anything else.
Look, I just imagine him saying, oh, "It's figure looking good."
Pretty much, right? But Suicide Squad is the first, and as far as I could tell, the only movie I've ever watched twice, and the second time they edited it.
Oh, right. That reminds me. Hold on. Let me just respond to this text. I'm sorry. I'm so professional.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who it is?
Cindy.
Okay, no, it's not Cindy. It's actually Ruby.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, what's up?
She just sent me something that I have to ignore. So,
Okay.
because I'm in the middle of something. Sorry, Ruby. I love you, but no, fuck you. This shit is more important right now.
She's not gonna appreciate that one.
I'm gonna have to cut that shit out.
Yep. Get to editing.
No, I'm too lazy. So fuck was we talking about?
It's the fact that Suicide Squad still is the first and the only movie I've ever seen twice, right? And the second time they did an edit.
Question.
What?
Why the fuck did you watch it twice? I have my reasons. What the fuck's your reason?
So my reason was the first time I actually watched it on opening week because I was kind of excited, right?
Okay.
Yeah. The first time I watched it was with my sister, all right? And it sucked, right? The second time, right, was because a bunch of my work friends wanted to do it and they wanted to make like a big hangout out of it. And I'm like, willing to hang out with people for this kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, sure. And I'm so glad I did the second time because that's when I saw the edit. And in all honesty, I actually watched it 3 times.
Oh my, why? What the?
Here's the edit, right, that I don't know if anyone else picked up on, right? Opening week, the first movie that ever, aired for it, right? What happened, right, in one scene, right, was, do you remember when Ric Flair, was planting the bomb with,
Did you just say Ric Flair?
Wait, whoops, did I? I think
the fucking Nature Boy?
Oh, God. When Army Man...
Rick Flag.
My bad.
Ric Flair. That dude's getting old too, man.
That is hilarious. Anyways.
Yo, if Ric Flair was in the movie, that would make it instantly better. I'm just saying.
I totally agree. Anyways. When Rick Flag, right, gave Enchantress the bomb, right? And he was like, go plant it or whatever the fuck, right? And then that's when she, ghosted out and did her whole, what is it, like she went against Amanda Waller, right?
Yeah.
You remember that bomb, right? Just being there, right? And how like he essentially had to get out, I think. In the opening week, that scene played twice. That exact scene played twice. The second time was as a flashback, right? But the problem with the flashback was that it was literally just what you saw. Yeah, it was literally the same thing, right, that you saw. It didn't matter what it was, all right? Like, that was the scene, right, of him getting betrayed by Enchantress, right? When I saw it the second time, that scene was removed.
Like the whole scene, or are you saying the flashback?
The flashback specifically, that was removed, and all you saw was like Rick going like, "Ah, jeez," right? Okay. And to me, it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? You guys couldn't even release a cohesive like fucking product. You had to make the edits on the fly. Oh my god, it was the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life when it came to a movie. With
the DCEU, there's some stuff that pisses me off about BVS, which is,
sure,
they took all these great potential individual movies and they shoved them into one. And the problem is, I like the cast so much, I want to see them do it justice, but I can't because it's already done. Death of Superman, done. Revival of Superman, done. Doomsday, done. I can't. Batman versus Superman, like the actual Batman fighting Superman, already done. I can't see it in justice now, and now both those motherfuckers left.
Yeah.
I bet you from the very beginning, Ben Affleck, when there was rumors about Ben Affleck wanting to leave, he actually wanted to leave, but he just needed a reason to leave first. When Henry Cavill said, I just figured, it's not right for me. I feel like I've done what I needed to do with the character. And I wish whoever carries on with the role, success and shit like that. When he left, Ben Affleck was like, aha, here's my doorway. I can escape this shit. I don't know why he sounds like that. And then he goes like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the movie by George Miller that I'm not a part of because I'm out now. Peace out, motherfuckers.
Yep, pretty much.
And then, when that happened, people were panicking. They're like, oh my God, their Batman is gone. Their Superman is gone. What are they going to do? And then DC, there was like a leaked statement or some shit where they were like, yeah, DC's going to be, pulling out like they're going to have Supergirl replace Superman and, and it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, why? Because the problem with that is Supergirl. Not talking about the TV show, because that's a different kind of character. Kara Zor-El from the comic books is very much like, a teenager, an angsty teenager who is given the tools to basically do anything that you would like with them. But she needs to be trained to be more resourceful, respectable, and more of a superhero.
Yeah.
The way that DC pitched their Supergirl, both I guess in terms of the show and as well as for the DCEU, was we're going to bring in Supergirl and she's basically going to be a female Superman. And I'm just like, you mean Wonder Woman, right? Because, we have our female Superman, so to speak, in Wonder Woman. So what I said with William and I had like a long conversation while we were having pizza one day. And I was like, you know what they should do? Superman is meant to be a hopeful character that's really bright and cheery.
Right.
I don't really care if his replacement is a man or a woman, but since they're going to have a Shazam movie, might as well have Shazam fill in the role of the hopeful powerhouse and have either Batman, well, I guess you can't have Batman anymore, but have Wonder Woman lead the team. Makes sense. Yeah. Easy fix. You don't even need to cast anyone new.
Yeah.
If you wanted to have someone in that role as the powerhouse who's still very strong-minded and mature, why don't you introduce someone like a Martian Manhunter?
Huh.
You see what I mean? Like and then have that version of Supergirl if you really want something more iconic with the Superman shield. Like, remember pre-Crisis, Supergirl was actually a white Martian?
Yeah.
Like, shit like that. But DC was like, oh no, we're going to have just Supergirl, because, Superman and Supergirl, it's the same thing. I don't know why everyone's British for some reason, but I was like, no, don't do that. No, don't do that.
In your head, evil CEOs are like all these British men, like twiddling their mustaches.
And they all sound like Tim Curry when they laugh.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's all the time that we have for today. Hopefully we will do this again soon, and we're going to talk more about other cinematic superhero or other properties such as such as Transformers, and hopefully we actually talk about Endgame next time. But that will be it for today's episode of the Ghetto Fabulous podcast. We might change it to something else, but that is the way it is. Fun fact, I just thought of Ghetto Fabulous on the spot. I actually don't know what the fuck to call this. I was about to call this the Crack Podcast, as in chubby ratchet Asian kid, but whatever.
Okay, well. All right.
But yeah, that'll be it for us for today, and we'll see you next time, y'all. Take care.